Hello there. This is Being God's Obedient Servant channel. We're back again, still in Exodus. Today I'm going to attempt to do two chapters of 26 and 27. They're kind of not really teachings; they're more of informative. They're pretty straightforward, but this is still like the building of the tabernacle, and it's going to be with the outfit that Aaron the priest had to wear with the breastplate and all the stuff. That's kind of like what we're in right now. So there's not really much to teach from this area, but like I've always said, all of the Bible's important to read. Even if it doesn't really pertain to you or pertain to situations, it's still just read it through and just kind of go over it. Because sometimes you never know when the Lord's going to speak to you about certain things. Just like when I was re-reviewing this, it's not going to be in this teaching, but in the next one, I probably won't remember it to talk about it then. But it's kind of goes along the line of also how whenever you go through Old Testament, um, and how what the Israelites went through in the starting of everything, to also what Jesus went through and what he represented, there's a lot of stuff in there that are the same. Um, so, but yeah, go ahead and jump right on in here. Got a little bit to read, but as I said, it's pretty much going to be straightforward. There's a couple of words that are I had to look up, so I'll tell you what they are. Um, well, it's like one I had to look up was ouch. Out. It's not owls. I guess it's pronounced ouches or something of that nature. But pretty much that word means a setting for a stone. So like emerald or ruby, diamond, whatever. It's it's an indentation area that you're supposed to make for to set a stone in. It's called out an ouchies, an ouches or something like that. It's anyways, you'll see it. But yeah, so again, jump right on in here. Um, 26 verse 1. Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen and blue and purple and scarlet. Now, for those that don't know, scarlet is red. Um, so continue on. With cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them. Now, last time I think I might have messed up in saying that they're like guardian angels, but the cherubims are supposed to represent angelic beings. So I just want to kind of like, I guess, correct myself there just a little bit on that. I mean, it could be guardian angels, but it's still like it's angelic beings. Um, you know, it's kind of like people with wings. So that's where we kind of get our angels have wings thought from. That's what cherubims are. So, anyways, continue on verse 2. The length of one curtain shall be 8 and 20 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits, and every one of the curtains shall have one measure. The 5 curtains shall be coupled together one to another, and other 5 curtains shall be coupled one to another. And thou shalt make loops of blue upon the edge of one curtain from the selvage in the coupling, and likewise shalt thou make it in the uttermost edge of another curtain in the coupling of the second. Now I will say the selvage. I don't know what that word means. It's easy enough to Google some of the stuff. I'll Google it a little bit later. Uh, Hold on. Actually, I'm just going to pause this and Google it right now. Okay, so yeah, I just looked it up real quick. Yeah, selvage is it's like the end of fabric made in a way so it doesn't undo itself or become frayed. So it's like it's I think it's almost like a continuous end. That's kind of how I looked it up and saying so. So yeah, that's what that means. But yeah, as I said, I found that in Google. simple enough. So if you ever run into one of these, like you see words in here, like if you want to know what the measurements of cubits and breadth and and a span is and stuff like that. That's these are all measurements in here in the Bible. That's what they had at the time. As I said, I know a lot of them, like one of them's going to be like the length from your fingertip to your elbow. Uh, Other one's the width of your hand, and stuff like that is what a lot of them are. So you can look these up. As I said, a lot of the stuff like this stuff right here, the tabernacle and all this stuff, this doesn't pertain to us Christians at all, but it is in the Bible, and God says that we should seek Him, and part of seeking God is reading His Word and studying it. It's like there's always parts in there that will help you or speak to you a little bit at times, and some things you say, hey, well, this matches up with here, and so there's that makes it very relevant in following of God, of saying like this is important. This is a representation of this, and so on and so forth, whatever. Anyways, I'm going to continue on reading. So we got a little bit to read today, and so it's going to continue on here. 50 loops shalt thou make in the one curtain, and 50 loops shalt thou make in the edge of the curtain that is in the coupling of the second, that the loops may take hold one of another. And thou shalt make 50 taches of gold, and couple the curtains together with the taches, and it shall be one tabernacle. And thou shalt make curtains of goat's hair to be a covering upon the tabernacle. 11 curtains shalt thou make. The length of one curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits, and the 11 curtains shall be all of one measure. And thou shalt couple 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves, and shalt double the 6th curtain in the forefront of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make 50 loops on the edge of the one curtain that is outmost in the coupling, and 50 loops in the edge of the curtain which coupleth the second. And thou shalt make 50 taches of brass, and put the taches into the loops, and couple the tent together, that it may be one. And the remnant that remaineth of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remaineth, shall hang over the backside of the tabernacle. And a cubit on the one side, and a cubit on the other side of that which remaineth in the length of the curtains of the tent, it shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle on this side and on that side to cover it. And thou shalt make a covering for the tent of ram skins dyed red, and a covering above of badger skins. And thou shalt make boards for the tabernacle of shittim wood standing up. 10 cubits shall be the length of a board, and a cubit and a half shall be the breadth of one board. 2 tenons shall there be in one board, set in order one against another. Thus shalt thou make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make the boards for the tabernacle 20 boards on the south side southward, and thou shalt make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for his 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for his 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle of the north side there shall be 20 boards. And there are 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And for the sides of the tabernacle westward thou shalt make 6 boards. And 2 boards shalt thou make for the corners of the tabernacle in the 2 sides, and they shall be coupled together beneath, and they shall be coupled together above the head of it unto one ring. Thus shall it be for them both. They shall be for the 2 corners. And they shall be 8 boards, and their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And thou shalt make bars of shitting wood. I said it twice wrong. 5 for the boards of the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the side of the tabernacle for the 2 sides westward. And the middle bar in the midst of the boards shall reach from end to end. And thou shalt overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold for places for the bars, and thou shalt overlay the bars with gold. And thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof, which was showed thee in the mount. Now, a couple of times here we've already heard this part where it says showed thee in the mount, where right now we have not went over that. That's going to be coming up very shortly after this, of Moses going up on the mount for 40 days and 40 nights. And there's a lot of stuff that happens during that, but this is like a lot of parts of the Bible is not in order. It kind of jumps around a little bit. So it's like we're going to be coming up to the part where where he's going to be showed in the mount, but this stuff was covered in the Word beforehand, and some of us it's confusing that it's written this way, but in the way that it originally was written, I guess in a way, originally it's written in Hebrew. It's supposed to make more sense then. It's just like, in Arabic, it's written backwards. We go from left to right. Arabic goes from right to left. Stuff like that. So it's like some things it's just the way it was written, and that's just kind of how it is. So, but yeah, it's not really in, not really fully in chronological order in some areas. So, I'm going to continue on here. And thou shalt make a veil of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen of cunning work. With cherubim shall it be made. And thou shalt hang it upon 4 pillars of shittim wood, overlaid with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, upon the 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches, that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony, and the veil which divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy. Now I'll pause there for a second. So of course, here's talking about the Ark of the Covenant. It's going to have the 10 Commandments and everything in it. It sits and always goes inside the tabernacle. When it's, because every time they stop, they're supposed to set up the tent, the holy tent. And of course, you can tell from the reading of it, the tabernacle is on the inside of this tent. But yeah, that's where it places that. But also, you're going to be hearing about the certain veils and everything else. And when we get to New Testament, when Jesus is crucified and dies for our sins on the cross, the veil is torn. And what that's supposed to represent, I'll talk about it again there when we get to that part. But what it's supposed to mean is like, now the reason why we no longer need a priest or this, that, and the other and everything anymore is because Jesus has separated. It's that God actually separated He tore the veil, so there's no more of, because in these times, God will speak to the priest in the tabernacle, and then the priest from the tabernacle will tell the people what God says. And see, now, as I said before, we are gifted the Holy Spirit. The veil's been torn. We now speak directly to God and to Jesus. So we no longer need a priest. Jesus was the last priest. And just like, when I said about Aaron wearing certain things, and he's putting on this, and it says, and you're putting on the sins of the 12 tribes, and this, that, and the other, that's what Jesus bore on the cross. And so we're not got to that part yet about, the breastplate and everything else that Aaron has to adorn before going into the tabernacle and everything. But I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of stuff here that is going to be beneficial of knowing for when we get to New Testament. As I said, there's a lot of stuff about the New Testament. If you don't know Old Testament, it doesn't make sense. You don't really get it or the importance of. This is why it's like, we're supposed to study Old Testament and New Testament. We need to know both. And we need to know what pertains to us today and what doesn't. But as I said, there's always teachings in the Bible, even though we don't build tabernacles, the church isn't built this way or none of this stuff, whatever. There's still passages in here of saying about, this is why this is crucial. Say this is going to be very significant later, type stuff. So, anyways, continue on verse 34. And thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. Of course, the tabernacle and everything, that place stuff is going to the most holy place, where you have the veil that separates the most holy place from the rest of the tent. So, and later on, it's going to be the Temple Mount. The temple itself is going to be made, which is made out of stone and everything else, instead of a tent, but the same rules apply with what it's supposed to look like on the inside. But anyways, continue on here. Verse 35. And thou shalt set the table without the veil, and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle toward the south. And thou shalt put the table on the north side. And thou shalt make an hanging for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework. And thou shalt make for the hanging 5 pillars of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, and their hooks shall be of gold, and thou shalt cast 5 sockets of brass for them. Chapter 27. And thou shalt make an altar of shittim wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. And thou shalt make the horns of it upon the 4 corners thereof. His horn shall be of the same, and thou shalt overlay it with brass. And thou shalt make his pans to receive his ashes, and his shovels, and his basins, and his flesh hooks, and his fire pans. All the vessels thereof thou shalt make of brass. And thou shalt make for it a grate of needlework of brass, and upon the net shalt thou make 4 brazen rings in the 4 corners thereof. And thou shalt put it under the compass of the altar beneath, and the net may be even to the midst of the altar. And thou shalt make staves for the altar, staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with brass. And the staves shall be put into the rings, and the staves shall be upon the 2 sides of the altar to bear it. Hollow with boards shalt thou make it, as it was showed thee in the mount, so shall they make it. So once again, the lesson from here is, like I said, we haven't got to that part where Moses has went to the mount yet, but it's like it said, like the Lord always helps us. Like if there's things he wants us to do and we don't know how to do it, he'll show us how. He will teach us how. He will bring the right people into our lives that will teach us. Whichever way he needs to do it, he will do it. And this is that other teaching here. It's like, it's like how to hollow with boards shalt thou make it, as it was showed thee in the mount. It's like, God showed Moses how to make this, for it's not, evidently it's not known or not common. So say, here, this is what I want made, and this is how to do it. So this is where the teachings go, that Lord is always going to be there for you and help you with whatever he wants you to do. He's going to make it happen as long as you're willing to do it. As long as you're willing to carry it out, he'll be there for you, type stuff. So that's a kind of a teaching from that right there. Okay, continue on, verse 9. And thou shalt make the court of the tabernacle for the south side southward. There shall be hangings for the court of fine twined linen, and 100 cubits long for one side. And the 20 pillars thereof, and their 20 sockets, shall be of brass. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. And likewise for the north side in length there shall be hangings of 100 cubits long, and his 20 pillars and their 20 sockets of brass, the hooks of the pillars and their fillets of silver. And for the breadth of the court of the west side shall be hangings of 50 cubits, their pillars 10, and their sockets 10. And the breadth of the court on the east side eastward shall be 50 cubits. The hangings of one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And on the other side shall be hangings 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And for the gate of the court shall be an hanging of 20 cubits of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework, and their pillars shall be 4, and their sockets 4. All the pillars round about the court shall be filleted with silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their sockets of brass. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and the breadth 50 everywhere, and the height 5 cubits of fine twined linen, and their sockets of brass. All the vessels of the tabernacle, and all the service thereof, and all the pins thereof, and all the pins of the court shall be of brass. And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring thee pure oil olive beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn always. So I take it in this part of the land, olive trees are very plentiful, to make sure they bring in, beaten olives to get the oil out of it, so they can have oil for the lamps. I would hope so, if they got to bring pure oil all the time in to make sure the light burns always, never goes out. Okay, continue on here, verse 21. In the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever unto their generations on the behalf of the children of Israel. I do recall, I think that's the end of this, but here's the other part I was saying, like Aaron and his sons. So Aaron, it's like Aaron is the first priest, and only his descendants, his male descendants, can be priests. And yes, as I said, that's the end of this this lesson here. So, as I said, it's kind of like straightforward, just a pretty straight read through. Got about 7 minutes left on this. So I said I'll be able to end this without worrying about YouTube messing it up. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward reading. There is some things you can learn in there that can be beneficial. Some people, not yet. As I've told many people, like when you read the Bible, you can't read the Bible and learn it one time. You got to read it and keep rereading it. And the more you read it, the more things speak to you. Because you'll read it one time, you'll learn stuff from it. Then when you read it again, more things will be known to you. Because I said, being a Christian or following God is like being a baby. God doesn't expect you to be a full-grown, perfect human or whatever, an adult straight from the get-go. You got to be a baby, an infant. You got to learn to crawl. You got to learn to walk. You got to learn to run. You got to learn to be wise. There's so many things to learn about being a Christian, and you're not going to learn it all at once, and God doesn't expect you to. So, anyways, I said I'm going to end this here, get this loaded up, and get started on the next one. And so I hope I'll have good, blessed days until next time. Hopefully, the inflation of everything doesn't harm people too much. These are some of my prayers I have. Our country's going through some hard times right now. and things are going to be getting worse, especially like the new fertilizer problem because of not coming from Russia, blah, blah, blah. So, I said, like, we got to pray for each other. And as God says, if the people will turn from their wicked ways, I will bless thy land. I will heal thee and bless thy land. I'm sorry, that's in there as well. And so, as you can tell, we've got a lot of this country no longer following God. And the rules go, if the land turns its back on God, God turns his back on the land. And that means the people as well. So, God's going to take care of us if his will be so. But, we may go through hard times with everybody else in the coming days, and God's going to do whatever he has to do to bring his people back to him. Now, I'm not, we're not Israelites or anything. That's the promise he made for the Israelites. But this land was blessed and built by God with the use of Christians. And so we've been a Christian nation from the beginning of its being created, from Europeans till now Americans. And we're supposed to be that extra light of the world. And we haven't been that for quite some time because we've walked away from God. The majority of the country's leaders and everything else, and the way the country's been going. But as I said, keep praying about that. Pray for each other. And until next time, good night and goodbye.